Have you ever wondered what's hiding in the 80% of the ocean we've never explored? What if some sea monsters from legends were actually real, hiding there? Today we're looking at 28 mythical sea creatures that really existed. This is the full series, every part combined into one massive journey. So stick around. The craziest ones are waiting at the end. Number 28. Kraken. As far back as the 12th century, sailors and people living near the sea told scary stories about the Kraken, a giant sea monster that looked like a squid. They said it attacked ships and pulled them underwater. The story probably began in the waters around Norway, Iceland, and Greenland. It spoke of a huge creature with long arms that could grab whales or smash large ships. The Kraken didn't just attack, it pulled ships down and made a strong whirlpool that sank everything and everyone on board. Like many old stories, this one was probably made bigger and scarier over time. But the first report of someone seeing the Kraken goes back to the year 1180. At that time, sailors didn't know about giant squids, so when they saw something strange in the water, they thought it was a sea monster that ate people. But what if the stories were true? In 1853, something big washed up on a beach in Denmark. It was a huge sea animal. The first time something like that had been seen up close, and it looked a lot like the Kraken from the old stories. Since then, scientists have asked how many kinds of giant squid exist and how big they can get. But can any of them reach the size people talked about in the past? Think about this. Animals like the Megalodon and Nothosaurus were real, and the biggest squid found so far was 43 feet long, about 13 meters. So many believe a squid that big could be real. But that's not all. In 2011, scientists found bones from very old sea reptiles. The bones were placed in a strange way. Some scientists said only a huge octopus or Kraken-like squid could have done it. One scientist, Professor Mark McMenamin, has spent years trying to show that these giant squid were real. He looked at the bones of a sea reptile called a Shawneesaurus, which lived 200 million years ago. The bones weren't spread out, and they were grouped together. He also saw marks that looked like they were made by squid suckers, and the neck looked broken, so he believes something big attacked it. The way the bones were placed is like how today's octopuses pull food to their homes, but this sea creature would have had to be over 30 meters long to kill and eat that big reptile. That's more than twice the size of any squid we've ever found. So, was the Kraken real? Maybe. The old stories from sailors might not be all made up, and the deep ocean, which we still don't fully understand, could have been, or maybe still is, home to a creature like the Kraken. Number 27. Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth, it's mentioned in the Bible as a sea monster so strong nothing could tame it. But here's something even weirder. People all over the world talk about huge sea monsters. Old Greeks spoke of snakes with very long necks, but sailors in Asia and the Pacific said they saw massive shadows slipping beneath the deep dark waves. These people never met, yet described nearly the same monster. That's not a coincidence. Why did so many believe something like this existed? About 50 million years ago, a real sea snake named Palaeophis ruled the oceans. It was over 30 feet long, the size of 4 small cars. It lived in warm coastal waters, so people long ago could have found its bones or seen rare survivors. But scientists say it's gone now. Still, over 95% of the ocean is unexplored, so some believe distant cousins may still be alive in the deep, causing modern sea serpent stories. But Leviathan might not have been a snake at all. Some stories describe it as something even bigger. There was a giant whale called Leviathan. It had teeth as long as your hand and hunted other whales. Some believe it even fought the Megalodon and won. So, scientists named it after the famous Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth. It was inspired by real monsters like giant whales and giant sea serpents that once ruled our oceans. And maybe something just as terrifying is still hiding deep below the waves. Number 26. Giant sea serpents. Do you like snakes? Probably not, but imagine spotting one over a mile long slithering through the sea. Myths of giant sea serpents stretch across cultures, from the South Asian Naga gods to Japan's Ryujin to the Norse Jörmungandr. One of the most chilling cases comes from Gloucester, Massachusetts. Between 1817 and 1819, dozens claimed they saw a monstrous creature with a long body and snake-like head. The reports described it as huge, too big to explain. Some say these sightings were just misidentified animals. A basking shark, maybe? From above, this 40-foot fish glides through water like a serpent. In fact, back in 1808, a 55-foot carcass of one washed ashore in Scotland. Locals were convinced it was a sea serpent. But the basking shark isn't the only suspect. In 1860, another so-called sea serpent washed up in Bermuda. It turned out to be an oarfish, a creature even stranger. Oarfish can reach 50 feet long, with thin, silver bodies and eerie red filaments along their spines. They lack scales. They ripple like ribbons, and they rarely surface unless they're sick or dying. At night, they rise toward the surface to feed, making them seem even more mysterious. So, what was the Gloucester serpent? A basking shark? An oarfish? Or something else entirely? One thing's for sure. At sea, distance and size are hard to judge, especially at night. But every glimpse of something long, dark, and twisting through the waves has kept this legend alive. Number 25. Naga. You might have heard about snake worship in India and thought it's just an old strange tradition, but really it's a belief based on ancient myths. The legend of the Naga goes back thousands of years in Hindu and Buddhist stories. The Naga is described as a creature that's half human, half snake, sometimes with a human upper body and a snake tail, or as a giant snake with 5 or even 7 heads. According to these stories, Nagas guard rivers, springs, treasures, and even the rain. People used to believe that respecting a Naga could bring wealth, wisdom, and protection from snake bites. But if they insulted it, they thought the Naga might punish them with floods, drought, or sickness. Snake worship still exists today in some parts of India. The cobra is especially important in this belief. During the Nag Panchami festival, people offer milk to snakes, following an old custom based on legend. Many temples still show carvings of Nagas with their hoods raised as symbols of this ancient practice. Some historians believe this legend began when ancient tribes saw snakes living near rivers and streams, so they imagined Nagas as guardians of water and land. Over time, this belief became part of rituals. Even today, Naga stories are everywhere, from temple art to modern TV shows like Ningen, where the Naga is shown as a mysterious, shape-shifting being. Some say these are just old stories, but others wonder, was it based on something real? Either way, the legend of the Naga still wraps around our imagination, waiting. Number 24. Umibōzu. A shadow from Japanese legend. A sea monk feared not for its roar, but for its silence. The sea goes still. No wind, no waves, nothing. It feels peaceful. But that's exactly when you should worry. Without warning, boom, a towering wall of water rises from nowhere. Ships vanish in an instant, but the real horror comes after. Some say if you speak to this figure, it quietly asks for a bucket. Simple, right? But hand it a regular one, and it begins filling your ship, calmly, steadily, until you sink beneath the waves. Almost like it enjoys watching your panic. There's only one way to escape. Trick it. Give it a bucket without a bottom, and you might buy enough time to get away. What does Umibōzu look like? Legends disagree. Sometimes he's massive, taller than sails, sometimes as huge as a mountain, rising faceless from the deep. Other times he stretches snake-like arms from the mist, reaching like wet black tendrils. Some tales even describe smaller versions that attack in groups, like evil mermaids hunting together. No matter what form he takes, one thing stays the same. His arrival means danger. Today, Umibōzu haunts anime, movies, comics, and video games. Science says he's just a story, but when the sea goes quiet and fog swallows the horizon, Japanese sailors remember one thing: silence is a warning. Number 23. Moby Dick. Moby Dick might seem like just a story, but it's rooted in grim reality. On November 20th, 1820, the American whaling ship Essex was sailing the Pacific when a massive sperm whale rammed it with shocking force. The ship sank, leaving 20 crewmen adrift in small boats. Hunger and thirst set in quickly. Weeks passed, and their journey turned into horror. In the end, only 5 made it back alive, and after being stranded for 89 days, driven to cannibalism just to survive. Therefore, while Herman Melville's Moby Dick is fiction, it's no wild fantasy. Melville drew heavily from real stories of 19th century whalers. Sailors back then didn't just hunt whales. Sometimes whales fought back. Whales were being slaughtered for oil, but these giants weren't helpless. Sailors told tales of furious whales that attacked ships without warning, overturning them or dragging them beneath the waves. One tale especially captured Melville's imagination: the legend of an enormous albino whale, pale as a ghost, stalking the Pacific. Sailors swore it was clever and violent, attacking ships with terrifying precision. This beast earned a chilling reputation as the terror of the seas. Melville wove these brutal truths into his masterpiece. His white whale, Moby Dick, wasn't just a creation of imagination, but a patchwork of real-life horrors, a symbol of nature striking back. Number 22. Ogopogo. Deep in British Columbia, Lake Okanagan hides a creature that's kept locals curious for generations.
There's a species in this lake. There is absolutely no question.
Something is down there.
You're sitting on the beach on a sunny day, you don't expect to see a dinosaur come out of the water.
Ogopogo, Canada's very own Loch Ness monster. Ogopogo is described as a dark green-black serpent, 15 to 25 meters long, with a thick, scaly body, a horse-like or horned head, and a flexible neck. It moves in smooth, undulating humps, powered by a strong tail and fins, often leaving a foamy wake as it zips across the lake. The first official sighting was in 1926, when a group claimed they saw a strange shape moving through the water. Since then, blurry photos, shaky videos, and stories have kept the legend alive. In the 1980s, a $1 million reward was offered for proof. Greenpeace even argued Ogopogo should be protected like an endangered species. What's clear is that Ogopogo became a tourism magnet. Kelowna even put up a playful cartoon statue, a strange contrast to something people once feared. So what is Ogopogo? Some say it's a massive fish, maybe a prehistoric relic. Scientists dismiss it as waves, light tricks, floating logs. But here's the thing. No one can prove it exists, but no one can prove it doesn't. Every ripple and strange shape beneath that glassy surface keeps the mystery alive. Maybe one day, someone will capture undeniable proof. Until then, Ogopogo stays right where it thrives, between legend and reality. Number 21. Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a creepy sea monster from a 1928 horror story, said to haunt dreams from the depths of the ocean. But long before that tale, real sea monsters ruled the deep. One was Tusoteuthis, a massive squid-like creature that reached 40 feet long. That's 2 giraffes, laid end to end. It had a hard shell inside, which made it stronger and faster than modern squids. It hunted giant fish and even baby marine reptiles. But like many others, it disappeared when the asteroid hit 66 million years ago. Cthulhu might be a story, but Tusoteuthis was real. And here's something to think about. We've explored only 5% of the ocean. So if monsters like that existed before, what else is hiding in the dark? Number 20. Nixie. The Nixie comes from old Scandinavian and German stories. Most of the time, she looks like a human woman, but her appearance isn't always the same. Some tales describe her as an old lady with green skin, green teeth, and seaweed-like hair. Others say she's a beautiful woman, but still tinted green. She's often covered in moss, seashells, and slimy plants from the water. In some stories, she has a fishtail while swimming, but when she steps on land, she appears fully human. Still, one clue gives her away. Her clothes are always soaked, wet, dripping. People call Nixies many names: water sprites, nymphs, even mermaids. Technically, all those names fit, but if you saw one, you'd probably just say, that's a mermaid. So what makes the Nixie different? Her legend goes back much further than most sea myths, and she's surrounded by ancient beliefs. Like mermaids, she's said to use beauty and song to lure sailors, often leading them into danger. But not all stories end that way. Some say she demands a human sacrifice every year, while others tell of her falling in love with people, with those stories ending in romance instead of tragedy. That might sound like pure legend, but here's where it gets interesting. For hundreds of years, fishermen in northern Europe told stories of beautiful women rising from rivers or lakes, calling out in strange voices. Whole villages believed they were real. In some places, people even left offerings near water to avoid angering them. Historians think these stories might be linked to sightings of real aquatic animals, or rare encounters with human-like shapes in the water that no one could explain. Even today, there are reports of people seeing mysterious women near lakes or rivers, figures that vanish the moment someone gets close. No one has solid proof, but the same descriptions keep showing up over and over across time and countries. That's why some believe the Nixie was based on something real. Number 19. Gran Maja. Out of all mythical sea creatures, one beast recently emerged online, and it's quickly become the scariest legend of our time. Its name? Gran Maja. Witnesses claim it lives somewhere deep in the Arctic Ocean, so deep that no sunlight reaches it. According to descriptions and illustrations, Gran Maja is huge, over 2,000 feet long. That's the size of 6 football fields end to end. Its mouth, a nightmare, packed with hundreds of sharp teeth, wide enough to swallow a whale whole, and its face, lined with 6 glowing white eyes that pierce through total darkness. But here's what made people start believing. A few years ago, researchers recorded eerie sounds from deep underwater in the Arctic. Scientists said it was probably just ice breaking apart, but others disagreed. They heard something alive, something mysterious, calling from below the ice. The most chilling story comes from a deep ocean trip. As the team lowered a camera into the deep hole, something massive passed by. Not clearly visible, but big enough to block out the light. The footage never went public, but crew members reportedly left the mission and never returned to sea. So, is Gran Maja real? Science says there's no proof. Yet the ocean is huge, deep, and mostly unexplored, especially near the frozen Arctic. Our fear of strange sounds, hidden creatures, and endless darkness makes Gran Maja seem not just possible, but terrifyingly real. Therefore, until we explore every hidden corner of the sea, Gran Maja is still a scary mystery. Maybe just a myth, or maybe the greatest secret hiding beneath the ocean waves. But Gran Maja is just a drop in the ocean. There are countless other creatures once dismissed as myth, yet proven to be real. Number 18. Godzilla. It's a giant monster from Japan and one of the most famous creatures in the world. Standing over 90 meters tall, covered in thick scales, and able to unleash a radioactive blast, he doesn't just look terrifying. He represents the destructive power of nature when humanity provokes it. He first appeared in the 1954 Japanese film Gojira, created as a symbol of nuclear fear after the tragedies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan turned its pain into a story, a warning about the consequences of power humans can't control. Over time, Godzilla changed. The monster that once destroyed cities became a protector of humanity, fighting titans like Mothra, King Ghidorah, and King Kong. His spiky back, thunderous roar, and massive tail became instantly recognizable, so iconic that his roar was officially trademarked in Japan. Today, he's more than a movie character. He's a global legend. But here's the twist. Something like Godzilla actually existed. Scientists found fossils of Patagodoton majorum, a real giant over 36 meters long and as heavy as 10 elephants. So while movies turned Godzilla into a symbol of destruction, nature had already written its own version, a real-life titan that once ruled the planet. Number 17, Hydra. You remember the monster Hercules fought? That terrifying beast with many heads? That legendary creature was called the Hydra. It sounds impossible, but here's the surprise. It actually exists. But don't worry, it's not exactly the nightmare from the myth. In ancient Greek stories, the Hydra was a deadly water monster shaped like a snake, known for one terrifying trick. If you cut off one head, two grew back. Even worse, its breath was toxic enough to kill. Hercules defeated this beast during his famous 12 labors, making it one of the greatest stories ever told. The Greeks and Romans couldn't get enough of this story. It appeared everywhere, in paintings, pottery, sculptures, even coins. Clearly, this epic battle fascinated them deeply. But here's the twist. A real-life Hydra exists today. It's not huge or deadly, though. This Hydra is tiny, only about 10 millimeters long, about the size of a grain of rice. It lives underwater and catches its food using stinging arms. Here's where things get even stranger. Scientists discovered something shocking about this little creature. It might live forever. In 2015, researchers tried many ways to kill the Hydra. They failed every time. Why? Because each time, the Hydra's cells grew back, keeping it forever young. Therefore, this tiny real-life Hydra could teach scientists something amazing about living forever. Ancient myths imagined an unstoppable monster, but nature created something even more incredible, a creature that never grows old. Number 16, Jörmungandr. In Norse mythology, Jörmungandr, known as the Midgard serpent, is a colossal sea monster that encircles the entire world, biting its own tail. His name means the Great Beast, and legends say he traps humanity within his endless coils. Few beings, even among the gods, can match his terror. Jörmungandr is one of Loki's 3 children, alongside Hel and Fenrir. When the gods discovered Loki's children, they feared what these creatures might become. Odin threw Jörmungandr into the ocean, hoping he would drown, but he didn't. Instead, he grew, feeding on the sea itself until his body wrapped around the earth. The gods feared him, for his return would mean the end of all things. During the final battle of Ragnarok, the god Thor faces the serpent Jörmungandr and kills it, but its venom seeps into his body. After taking only 9 steps, Thor collapses dead beside his enemy. But maybe this myth wasn't pure fantasy. In ancient fossils, remains of a creature called Paleophis colosseus, a real sea serpent that lived 60 million years ago, have been found. It stretched nearly 50 feet, as long as 2 small school buses back to back. Ancient people who uncovered its bones might have believed they'd found proof of the legendary serpent itself. Even today, his story lives on in carvings, games, and legends, a symbol of nature's fury, and a reminder that no one, not even the gods of Norse mythology, can escape the depths of the sea. Number 15, Bloop. In 1997, a mysterious and powerful sound was detected in the Pacific Ocean. The sound, nicknamed the Bloop, traveled over vast distances, sparking theories that it originated from a colossal sea creature. For a sound of such magnitude, the creature would have to be 100 times larger than a blue whale. This speculation gave rise to the mythical modern creature called the Bloop. However, scientists later revealed that the sound was caused by melting icebergs in the Antarctic Ocean. Despite this explanation, the idea of an undiscovered giant creature isn't far-fetched. Prehistoric oceans hosted enormous species like lead sichthys, a fish that opened its 40,000 tooth-filled mouth wide enough to resemble the mythical Bloop. Number 14, Scylla. A whirlpool on one side, a 6-headed monster on the other. Could you survive that? In Greek mythology, Scylla lurked in a narrow sea channel, facing the sea-swallowing whirlpool Charybdis. Sailors who turned away from one were forced toward the other. There was no safe path, only a choice between 2 horrors. Scylla wasn't enormous, but she was terrifying. 6 long necks twisting from one body, each ending in a mouth full of teeth sharp enough to snap bone. She hid in her cave, waiting. Therefore, when a ship drifted too close, she struck like lightning, seizing sailors one by one. But legend says she wasn't born this way. Once, she was a beautiful nymph loved by Poseidon. His jealous wife, Amphitrite, cursed her by poisoning the spring where she bathed, turning beauty into horror. But the story doesn't end there. Homer linked it to the narrow strait near modern Messina in Italy, a place where rough seas and strange sightings were common. Sailors could have seen giant squid arms, long oarfish bodies, or odd crab-like shapes in the surf, and mixed those images into one terrifying beast. So Scylla may be less a single animal and more a memory of many real sea encounters. Number 13. Loch Ness Monster. People in Scotland have claimed for centuries to see a huge mysterious creature in Loch Ness, with a long neck and a dinosaur-like body. But, despite sonar scans and underwater cameras, no one has found solid proof. Therefore, most scientists think the monster is a mix of hoaxes and mistaken sightings. But millions of years ago, something very similar did exist: the Plesiosaurus. It wasn't a dinosaur, but it lived at the same time. With flippers like paddles and a neck as long as a giraffe's, it ruled the oceans for 150 million years. Then, like the dinosaurs, it vanished in a mass extinction. Therefore, if Plesiosaurus went extinct so long ago, so how have people seen it in Loch Ness for over 1,500 years? The logical explanation is that someone found a plesiosaur fossil and mistook it for the Loch Ness monster. Number 12. Megalodon. 10 million years ago, a giant ruled the ocean. The Megalodon. It stretched over 80 feet long and weighed more than 140,000 pounds. Its jaws could crush a car, but its teeth were the size of a man's hand. One bite could snap a whale in half. Nothing alive could challenge it. Fossilized teeth and bones have been found across the globe, from Japan to Peru, so perfectly preserved, they almost look new. That's why some wonder, what if it's still out there? In 2012, rescuers saw a massive shadow beneath their ship, over 60 feet long, yet never identified. A decade later, researchers near Australia pulled hundreds of shark teeth from the deep, some belonging to species believed to have evolved from the Megalodon itself. Scientists say it's extinct, gone for 2 million years, but stories keep surfacing. Could something ancient still be hiding in the dark? Most imagine it looked like a great white shark, but Hollywood got it wrong. The Megalodon was slower, longer, and leaner, built for power, not speed. It needed nearly 2,500 pounds of food every day, which means a baby Megalodon is born already capable of eating dolphins for breakfast. So what killed it? Not a monster, but competition, the great white shark. Faster and smarter, it stole Megalodon's prey until the giant faded away. But we've explored less than 20% of the ocean. If something that big wanted to hide, it could. Maybe it's gone, or maybe the ocean's king still waits below. Number 11. Ningen. In the early 2000s, Japanese sailors spotted something strange swimming near Antarctica. They called it Ningen. Imagine this, a creature with long, creepy arms and a body like a mermaid. Soon photos popped up online, claiming to show this mysterious being. But sadly, most were proven fake. But here's the big question. Could a creature like the Ningen really exist today? Antarctica is huge, mysterious, and barely explored, so who knows what's hiding there? Scientists don't know for sure, but they have some surprising theories. Some experts think the Ningen could actually be a swimming sloth called Thalassocnus. Sounds weird, right? But these sloths had long arms, perfect for swimming. Their fossils are often found in Chile and Argentina, two countries very close to Antarctica. Another shocking theory? The Ningen might be an ancient shark called Mokele-Mbembe. This shark also had long fins, swimming silently through prehistoric oceans, just like stories describe the Ningen. However, fossil records show that Mokele-Mbembe disappeared around 66 million years ago during a huge extinction event. But here's the twist. Sharks are nature's toughest survivors. Many have lived longer than dinosaurs and global extinctions. So, what if Mokele-Mbembe didn't disappear, but adapted, hiding in the frozen shadows beneath Antarctica? No one can say for sure. But the Ningen, whatever it is, remains one of the coldest, creepiest mysteries our world has to offer. Number 10. Sea Eater Monster. This isn't just a story, it's a warning. The creature they call the Sea Eater is one of the biggest, strangest things ever talked about. But describing it, that's nearly impossible. It's just too big. Some say it stands 5 kilometers tall, 4.5 wide, and stretches over 25 kilometers long. That's bigger than most cities. Others believe it's even larger. But truth is, no one really knows. The Sea Eater lives deep in the world's oceans, far from ships, far from people. But when it moves, it pulls itself through the sea, mouth wide open. It doesn't roar, it doesn't doesn't hunt, it simply swallows. Islands, ships, waves, gone. That's how it got its name. Witnesses describe a feeling of total fear, the kind that makes you freeze. People who've seen it say they felt small, like they didn't matter. Its body is covered in thick, rubbery skin, like a whale's, but somehow water flows through it, making it glide smoothly. Some ancient sailors were so shocked, they sailed straight into its mouth, staring in awe, unable to turn away. But its most terrifying feature? Two massive arms, not made of flesh, but of bones. From sea creatures, it crushed. Each arm is taller than a skyscraper. They move fast, up to 1,000 miles per hour. It uses them to drag itself across the ocean floor, or reach for whatever it wants. It's rare to see, but sometimes it gets close enough to shore for people to notice. In 1927, a woman named Evelyn Mary was sunbathing on the beach when she noticed something strange, what she called a moving mountain in the sea. She ran as it crept closer, terrified by the size and silence of the thing. In 1930, a fisherman and his father were casting nets in the deep Pacific. Suddenly, the older man saw a dark shape rising beneath their boat. Before they could react, the creature surfaced, capsizing their vessel. They were never seen again. But the scariest story? In 1862, the sea eater surfaced near an unknown coast. The waves it triggered reached 120 meters high. Tsunamis followed, flooding the land for over 60 years. Some people say these stories are just myths, but they keep showing up over and over again. Pirates told tales of serpents that swallowed the world. Religious texts mention the Leviathan, an underwater beast that punishes the wicked. Even Egyptian carvings show something eerily similar, a creature too big to understand, hiding below the waves. So where is it now? Most sightings come from the Pacific and Indian Oceans, rarely the Atlantic. But those who claim to have seen it believe one thing: if it shows itself, something bad is coming. It never touches land. It seems to rot in shallow water like it's allergic to it. But if it ever found a way to survive on land, the results would be catastrophic. Right now, it's been quiet, too quiet. Maybe it's sleeping, maybe it's watching, or maybe it's getting ready to rise again. Number 9. Ghost whale. For hundreds of years, whales were considered sacred in Japan, gifts from the sea, honored with prayers and burials. But one whale returned, not to bless people, but to curse them. They called it Bait Kujira, a glowing whale skeleton said to bring famine and fire. So why would a creature once loved by humans come back as a curse? Fishermen once used every part of the whale and prayed to the creator so its soul could rest in peace. But that respect disappeared when people began hunting whales for money instead of need. By the 1960s, nearly 3 million whales were gone, the beautiful songs of whales replaced by the loud noise of factory ships. During a storm near Japan's Oki Islands, fishermen saw a huge shape rise from the waves. They threw their harpoons, but the weapons passed straight through. The whale was pure bone, glowing under the rain. When it vanished, plagues and fires followed. Some say the ghost whale was born from human guilt, as if an angry spirit had risen from the sea to take revenge. In Japan, it's believed that any creature who dies unfairly or without being honored can return as a restless spirit that haunts the living. Today, as oceans grow warmer and fill with waste, Bait Kujira feels less like a legend and more like a warning. Maybe it isn't haunting Japan. Maybe it's haunting all of us. Number 8. Kappa. If you ever watched Doraemon as a kid, you probably remember that strange creature called Kappa. It wasn't just made up for cartoons. It actually comes from Japanese mythology. People in Japan believe this creature looked like a giant turtle, but with a dark twist. The Kappa's favorite pastime? Kidnapping children and pulling people underwater to eat them alive. Now, imagine if a real creature like that once existed. In fact, during the dinosaur age, there was a turtle called Archelon. It wasn't fiction. It was the largest turtle ever found on Earth, growing up to 15 feet long, roughly the size of a Honda City car. What's even creepier is how much it resembled the Kappa. Archelon had a huge beak, powerful enough to crush the shells of other sea animals. So maybe legends about the Kappa were inspired by something that really lived long ago. Number 7. Nøkken. Nøkken is one of the scariest water spirits in Scandinavian stories. People say he lives in cold rivers and deep lakes across Sweden and Norway. He often shows up as a handsome man playing a soft, creepy violin song that pulls people toward the water. But that beauty is the trap. His music confuses your mind. Therefore, anyone who follows the sound gets pulled under the water. Many stories say he can change his shape. Sometimes he looks like a pale man with glowing eyes. Other times, like a slimy creature covered in seaweed. In some tales, he becomes a black horse waiting near the shore, ready to drag anyone into the lake. Villagers believed there was one way to stay safe. Throw metal into the water. Nøkken hated iron, so a coin or knife could protect you. One old story tells of a girl who heard violin music near a lake. She walked toward the sound, like she was dreaming, and never came back. So, what's the twist? In older tales, Nøkken didn't always try to trick people. Sometimes, he warned them. When a storm was coming or the ice on the lake was too thin, his violin would change into a sharp, fast tune. People believed it was a sign that the water was about to take a life. So maybe Nøkken isn't only a monster. Maybe he's also the voice that tries to warn you before danger hits. Number 6, Bunyip. In the deep swamps and waterholes of Australia, there's a terrifying legend, the Bunyip. Aboriginal stories say it hides near rivers, waiting in the shadows. Some say it even attacks humans. But what makes this creature so scary? They describe it as a giant beast, like a wombat mixed with something far more disturbing. Others say it looked more like a black seal with a bone-chilling scream that could freeze you in place. Most today say the Bunyip is just a myth. But what if it isn't? Around 65,000 years ago, when the first humans reached Australia, they didn't walk into paradise. They walked into a nightmare. Towering reptiles like Megalodon hunted the land, and meat-eating marsupials like Thylacoleo stalked the forests. Even the peaceful giants like Diprotodon, a wombat the size of a car, could have left behind footprints too strange to explain. So it's possible that ancient people saw these creatures, or their bones, and passed down what they remembered. Maybe they even heard strange cries from seals trapped inland after floods, and mistook them for monsters in the dark. So is the Bunyip real? Yes, but not in the way we imagine. Its legend may come from real beasts that once ruled Australia, and whose shadows still haunt its waters today. Number 5, Julia Beast. On March 1st, 1999, NOAA hydrophones near Antarctica picked up a strange underwater call that lasted almost 3 minutes. Triangulation placed the source deep in a remote zone between the Bransfield Strait and Cape Adare, but the sound traveled more than 3,000 miles. Its intensity passed 190 decibels underwater, louder than a jet engine. Therefore, whatever caused it had to be massive. But there was a problem. No one saw anything. With nothing to confirm, the internet filled the silence. People online named it the Julia Beast, imagining a 250-foot monster rushing toward the Mariana Trench. None of those details were real, but the idea spread fast. Scientists offered a different view. In 2008, researchers showed that a huge iceberg scraping the seafloor could make the same ultra-low call. These ice quakes can echo across entire oceans. Therefore, the iceberg theory fits the data best, but only 20% of the seafloor is mapped. No satellite captured the event that day. No ship reported anything unusual. A single sound is all we have. So did the Julia Beast exist? Most signs point to ice, not a monster, but one unexplained call and a deep ocean full of shadows is enough to keep the legend alive. Number 4, Lusca. There are places in the ocean where light won't even enter. The blue holes of the Caribbean, ancient caves so deep divers say they feel like falling instead of swimming. Locals insist those holes aren't empty. They belong to something, a creature they call the Lusca. Some claim it's half shark but half octopus. Others say it looks like a squid with jaws shaped like a crocodile. Huge, fast, silent. A shadow that moves like it knows the water better than anything alive. Fishermen across the Bahamas, Cuba, therefore Jamaica whisper the same warning. If something drags you into a blue hole, no bubbles. No blood, no return. Scientists blame the strange whirlpools on natural currents, but locals shake their heads. They say the water spins only when it wakes up, like the sea is breathing. Lusca almost never shows itself. Just a quick tentacle, a sudden pull, therefore a lonely flashlight drifting in the dark. But here's what nobody mentions. In 2019, a research drone entered a blue hole near Long Island. It reached 90 meters before the signal twisted, like something massive circled it. The final frame wasn't a creature, but a smooth tunnel stretching deeper than the drone could go. Locals said they already knew. Lusca doesn't just live in blue holes. It travels through them, a hidden network, under the islands, connecting places no human has mapped. So maybe it's rarely seen not because it hides, but because it can leave a flash, a pull, silence, gone. It's not the most famous sea monster, but in the Caribbean, it's the one they fear most. Number 3, Mokele-Mbembe. You've probably heard of the Loch Ness monster, but deep in Africa's Congo rainforest, there's a legend that's just as strange. It's called Mokele-Mbembe, and for generations, local tribes have claimed to see it. They're not alone. Some explorers say they've seen it too. They describe a creature with a long neck, shaped like a dinosaur, specifically a sauropod. Not a giant, just medium-sized, calm and plant-eating. But here's the strange part. Huge footprints, almost 3 feet long, found deep in the jungle. Sounds wild, right? Because according to science, all non-bird dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. So how could something like this still be alive? That's the mystery. Could it really be a dinosaur? Maybe not. But what if it's something else? Like Chalicotherium, a strange, long-necked mammal that went extinct not too long ago. Some believe a few might still be hiding in the jungle's deepest shadows. And here's the thing. The Congo rainforest isn't just massive. It's unexplored. Think of it as the Amazon's mysterious twin. In a place like that, even the impossible can feel possible. Number 2. Charybdis. Most sea monsters attack with teeth. Charybdis? She swallowed the sea. In Greek legend, she lurked beneath the waves of the Strait of Messina, hiding under a jagged rock. But she wasn't alone. Across the narrow channel lived Scylla, a beast with snapping jaws. To pass between them meant choosing your death. Get too close to Scylla, and you'd be torn apart. Drift toward Charybdis, and your ship would vanish into spinning water. She didn't roar. She didn't chase. She waited. Legends say Charybdis would suck down huge amounts of water, holding it in her belly. But when she released it, the ocean twisted into a violent whirlpool, one strong enough to drag entire ships into the deep. Greek heroes like Odysseus and Jason faced her. Most never returned. Charybdis shows up again and again in ancient stories. Some believed she was a massive sea serpent with an endless thirst, so powerful it changed the tides. Her hunger shaped the rhythm of the sea itself. Today, science tells a different story. The whirlpools in that strait are real, but not deadly. They're just rough patches caused by crashing currents. They may tip over small boats during storms, but they don't match the monster in the myth. So why did sailors believe in her? Maybe the fear was real, even if the creature wasn't. Or maybe something was there, something no one survived long enough to explain. Number 1. Yacumama. Hidden deep in the Amazon, there are places where the river suddenly goes quiet, but a moment later, whole boats get pulled under. Locals say it's not the current, it's something alive, a creature called Yacumama, mother of the waters. For thousands of years, the Quechua warned travelers to avoid certain bends in the river. They believed a giant serpent lived there, sliding through the dark water like a shadow. In their stories, Yacumama is huge, over 30 meters long, with a thick body, a horned head, therefore strong enough to spin whirlpools that flip canoes in seconds. These weren't tales for kids. Early explorers wrote similar reports. Calm water suddenly burst upward, as if something massive moved below. Some even claimed they saw a long shape glide past, too large to be any normal anaconda. So what was it? Scientists point to real giants. Titanoboa reached over 40 feet, but Paleophis grew even longer and hunted in warm coastal waters near ancient South America today. Rare anacondas over 25 feet still appear. Therefore, most sightings happen in the deepest, quietest corners of the Amazon. So when fishermen say sonar shows huge shapes, or when boats vanish with no piranhas or rapids nearby, people start wondering, could something enormous still live down there? No one has proved Yacumama exists, but no one has proved it doesn't. If a giant serpent survived anywhere, it would be here, waiting under the dark water. But here's the twist. Yacumama might be the smallest mystery, because there are mythical creatures with real evidence behind them. Therefore, click here to see the ones that turned out to be real.